Welcome to the Rewilded Human podcast, where Dr. Lucille and Lynn will tackle your most difficult and intimate questions with candor, tough love, and a little dash of humor. In today's episode,
that's my issue that I just cannot open up. So I'm not going to, the moment it comes up in conversation, I'm going to find a way to change the subject, or I'm going to leave the room, or whatever it is.
Like my therapist moved away and I didn't continue with the therapies because I just like to do it in person. So when she comes to visit, we do it again, but not online. I need to have that physical connection to be in close proximity to the person. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 30 of the Rewilded Human podcast. I'm Lynn Hardy, and I'm here with my beautiful and intelligent, wise, smart co-host, Dr. Lucille. And today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to do a rapid fire common questions and hot topics. So I'm going to jump right into the first one. How does unaddressed emotional damage from one's past impact current relationships, and what are the first steps towards healing? Unaddressed emotional damage. We all have a bit of that, right?
Yeah, that's our baggage that we come into relationships with.
Exactly, that is the baggage.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a big, broad question, a very common one. So I appreciate the question. But the first thing is you have to be aware of it yourself. You have to be aware of what you're carrying. It's hard because you don't always know until you get into a relationship, and then your buttons start getting pushed, and then you realize, oh, wow, I didn't know that I had this problem or issue. Relationships are wonderful, for bringing that out in us, because if you're living on your own, there's nobody there to start pointing things out to you or saying things or doing things that make you react. So often you don't know that you've got this baggage. I would say, first of all, have an awareness, be open to learning more about your stuff and your partner's stuff. Try to really look at it from a standpoint of, geez, we could really help each other grow if we can see our issues and we can actually talk about them in a compassionate, non-judgmental, curious way. Far too many couples get into being very reactive and judgmental. And how dare you say that I'm like my mother? And, you are a total slob. I didn't sign up to be a housemaid for the rest of my life. That's sort of stuff, But if you can be aware, and if you both have a growth mindset, like you really do want to become better lovers, partners, you need to do your work. There's no way to get around it. You just need to do your work. And whether that means going to therapy eventually or not, whatever it takes, you're not going to succeed at relationships unless you are ready to do the work.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dr. Lucille. I love the fact that you said that that's what relationships are for, is to bring these things to the surface, which won't really appear in your life if you are just on your own and don't have relationships with people. So that's a very interesting concept. Okay, next one.
Okay, the next one. In conversations about sensitive topics, deflecting can often escalate tensions. What strategies can individuals use to stay engaged and address the real issues? That's a really good question.
Yeah, that's it's kind of a loaded one, right? Deflecting.
It is a loaded one, yes.
Can often escalate tensions.
Yes. Well, I would say the answer to a certain extent is very similar to the answer to the first question. You have to know what triggers you. You have to know what are sensitive topics that you have difficulty going into with someone else.
So should you stay away from those topics, or should you?
No, I don't. Well, okay, everybody has a choice in this. Like they could say, okay, that's my issue that I just cannot open up. So I'm not going to, the moment it comes up in conversation, I'm going to find a way to change the subject, or I'm going to leave the room, or whatever it is. And you could do that. That's your choice. I like to use the question, what is for my best and highest healing and growth? And usually avoidance is not for your healing and growth. That will keep you stagnant at a certain level of your own development. Say to yourself, listen, I don't want to live with this topic or this sensitive issue. I don't want to live with this as a thorn in my side for the rest of my life. I want to feel free to talk about whatever I want to talk about, or listen to anybody who has you know, an issue with this and they want to talk it through. And then, you know, you do the work again, as we said, you know, in the answer to question number 1, you have to do the work on yourself. And first of all, you have to regulate your emotions. You have to, you know, learn things, strategies, coping styles that will help you stay calm enough so that you can listen in a conversation. And also listen not only to who's talking to you, but to what's going on inside of yourself. Listen calmly. Like you can be, you know, noticing that, oh, I'm having all these negative thoughts pop up. I'm having all these judgments popping up now. Or I'm really churning. My stomach is so tense and tight, and I almost feel nauseated. Whatever it is, you need to know the lay of the land. You need to know the territory, how this is impacting on you. And so it is really, really important that you use it as a journey of discovery and exploration of what is this topic all about for you. And the more you can be objective about that, the more you can learn about yourself, the better it will be for you to stay present when this comes up. Now, if you're in the position where you're trying to talk about something that's sensitive to another person, you just don't have much control over that. How they react is how they're going to react, and they may have absolutely no intention to heal and grow and be able to discuss something sensitive with you. You know, you get a lot in couples and married couples.
And I definitely have that with different people. Like I know with this person, we totally disagree on this issue, and then I just avoid the issue for the sake of having peace. But so it's really interesting that you say that for growth and for change, it's really important to address those issues as well as just sweep them.
And I would say address them. I don't think with any, because you may, like you probably, Lynn, in these you know, relationships, and I've had this experience too. You try to explore, you do the best you can to open up a conversation, and you know it's not going anywhere. Like the other person is very angry and offended or whatever, or they shut down completely. And then you know, okay, but at least you tried. At least you tried.
I agree. It's like, what chemtrails? What are you talking about? Those are normal clouds.
Yes, right.
Those kinds of conversations. I get those a lot. And the next question is, given the high rates of divorce, should marriage counseling be a prerequisite for all couples before tying the knot? Could this preemptively address common issues?
Oh my goodness, there are not enough couple therapists.
But maybe there should be like a booklet or something. Like when you buy a TV, you get like an instruction manual or something. Like give us something, right?
Yes,
there should be something.
The owner's manual for marriage.
But you know, like in a lot of churches or in different religions, they actually do offer this kind of service, like the priest or
educational courses on marriage, which I think is great. And I think that's the key here. That one thing we're not taught about, and I go on and on about this, and you know, some of my posts on Instagram, is we are not taught how to do complicated things like marriage or raising children.
Finances.
It's kind of expected. Yes. And it's expected that we should just, we get to a certain age and we just should know how to do that. Like how could we possibly know? What I do advocate for a lot is that people inform themselves. if you don't have a supportive family, or as Lynn said, a religious group that is kind of helping to guide you, you unfortunately have to do all the homework yourself.
Yeah.
And one of the things I would suggest is that there's a lot now in, the internet space and, the social media or whatever, a lot of people giving really good advice on how to do relationships, romantic relationships, marriage. And you really do need to do your own research. One of the things that is really, really important is that you never accept surface appearances, that you ask questions. A lot of people just don't ask questions. They think that they've fallen in love and that's it. I know this person is the love of my life, and we're just going to, go off into wedded bliss. No, how you and your partner appear to one another when you're in that blissful state of falling in love for the first time is not what you're going to see in your partner after a period of time together. You're going to see all sorts of things that are off base, or I didn't expect that. I didn't see that in you. Oh my goodness. It's really good as much as possible to get those questions answered up front, or at least start the conversations about things like, well, what do you feel about children? Do you want to have children? What was your childhood like? What were the best parts of your childhood? What were the worst? You want to get to that real deep, granular level of questions and learning about one another. And again, not in a judgmental way at all, but just this is a curious exploration.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. There should be some kind of like a questionnaire or something, and at least like
Yes.
how to deal with finances, or how to deal with, I don't know, vaccine issues for the children, or feeding the children, or like all those things that are going to come up. Those are really good things to discuss prior to getting married, so that you're on the same page, because otherwise those things can definitely lead to bigger issues later on.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so we're going on to the next question. How can couples counseling help in situations where only one partner recognizes the need for it? Is it possible to bring a reluctant partner on board? That's a good one. Have you ever been in that situation, Lynn, yourself?
I've been to therapy. I've been to therapy myself. My husband would never, ever, ever, ever. He would, like, he thinks that's for other people. So I would have no chance at all to bring him to couples therapy or anything like that. But I think if you can't really force someone to do anything. I'm sure if I give him like an ultimatum, okay, it's either that or we're getting divorced, but he's not going to be there because he truly wants to be there. So I don't think there's any point to that. What has been your experience, Lucille?
Oh, absolutely. It's very challenging. And usually if the woman gives an ultimatum, what happens, and it sometimes happens the other way around, where the guy really feels they need couples counseling.
Interesting.
The woman is definitely not in for it. Most of the time it is women who are trying to pull their husbands into a counselor's office. You can give him an ultimatum, but that doesn't mean that he's going to cooperate. That doesn't mean that he's going to really work with you and the counselor. It's kind of like, oh, well, you dragged me here I am now. Okay.
And they will probably feel like the counselor is like ganging up on them, right, on that person, because I'm the one that doesn't want to be here, and obviously you two are against me. I think it could be a very difficult
absolutely
situation.
It's very, very, very difficult. You need to make a decision. If your partner is that intransigent and they really don't want therapy, you can drag them into a counseling office. But one of the things that would happen is you might just find out how different the two of you really are, how much you're not on the same page about the marriage. And that, I think, it's extremely painful, but it's helpful.
Yeah.
You realize, well, how much more time, energy am I going to put into this relationship if we are so distant on what we want out of this?
Yeah.
So separate from one another. And I think the other thing is that you cannot you cannot believe that the counselor is just going to magically fix everything just because you managed to drag your partner.
No, you still have to put in the work. I mean, you both need to put in the work.
Right.
And if the other partner is not willing, then you're on your own, and it's very difficult.
It's very difficult,
Okay.
yeah.
The next question: what makes the best online therapy platform stand out in today's crowded mental health landscape, especially for those seeking help for the first time? So this is for you, Lucille, because I don't have any experience with.
Do you know, I don't know a lot about the online therapy platforms. Let me say, so I would have to say I only have a very superficial understanding of them.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that is, as a psychotherapist, I've been doing this work for almost 40 years. Mm-hmm. And I can say from the standpoint of working with people, in person is the best. Mm-hmm. In-person therapy is the best, because you gain so much information about each other in 3D, in actual live sessions.
I agree.
That is so valuable to the therapy. I agree that, yeah, for some people who can't access in person, they just can't, then okay, online is second best. But the same things apply, in the traditional way of doing psychotherapy as they do in the online, which is you need to build a trusting relationship between the two of you, mm-hmm. the client and the therapist. And so you need to do the work of collaborating with the therapist and being very forthright about, what is it that you feel you need, and can the therapist do they feel comfortable dealing with that? Whatever your issue, you want to really know if the therapist is going to be there for you. Mm-hmm. And that you have to do in the online spaces as much as in the physical realm. And so I would say that there are, and I'm not going to go into all the guidelines about what you should look for in a therapist. That would take us, I think, a little bit too long. But you need to have a list of questions or your concerns and be very upfront. Mm-hmm. A lot of people go into therapy and they're trying to act their best, like they're trying to get accepted by the therapist. And this is not about that. This is it's almost like the two of you are auditioning one another, mm-hmm. not in a really, interrogative way, but you do want to get a feel for one another to know if you both feel that this could be a good fit, that the two of you can work together. One of the things about the online world of therapy is that these are these are companies, right?
Yes.
Usually. And a lot of them. Now sometimes it's just a matter of one therapist who's giving online therapy, and that's fine. There is an issue I find with the companies that hire therapists to work online, and it's not talked about a lot, but I have learned that they tend to exploit the therapists that they hire.
That's not.
They tend to. Yeah, it's horrible. Some of the conditions under which they work are pretty horrible. Like they don't earn a lot, and so they are constantly under pressure to keep servicing a certain number of clients so they can keep up their income, and that kind of pressure you don't want to have.
It's like an assembly line, then, right?
It's not an assembly line.
Yeah. So
I would have, if you've got word of mouth from friends or other people that, oh yeah, this online therapy service is really great, mm-hmm. Absolutely go for it.
Yeah.
But it's dicey. It can be dicey.
I agree. I mean, I would much more prefer to be in person, even with someone that I know that I've done therapies with. Like my therapist moved away, And I didn't continue with the therapies because I just like to do it in person. So when she comes to visit, we do it again, but not online. I need to have that physical connection to be in close proximity to the person. But I mean, I can see it being beneficial for some people. But the thing is, with these online ones, are you getting the same therapist every time, or do you just get random ones every time?
No, you get the same therapist, but you can often what they'll say is, well, you don't like your therapist, we'll just
change.
give another one.
Yeah. So it's kind of like Tinder, right? Next.
Yeah, yes.
Next. Don't like this one.
And you see, in good therapy, if a client decides that they don't want to see you anymore, you would at least have a conversation with them about, well, okay, what has gone wrong for you? You know, can we, is there some issue that we need to deal with that might help you decide that you can stay and continue the work? Or is it really that you feel that it's such a bad fit that you can't continue? At least you can do that when you've got your own practice. I don't know what the policies are for these online companies, therapy companies, you know, whether they just switch you up the moment you decide you don't fit with this therapist. Because it's always good to try to talk through any issues you may have with your therapist before you decide to terminate.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, in an era where many relationships start online, how can couples ensure that their digital interactions do not contribute to emotional damage? So, you know, that's a good question because I'm not quite sure what you mean by the emotional damage.
Because they met online, the digital interactions do not contribute.
Yeah, yes. I don't know. The common thing is that people are at their best in, you know, on the digital platforms when they're first meeting, right?
Yeah.
Usually there's not a lot of emotional damage that occurs. Everybody's kind of on their best behavior. I like the advice that I got when I was doing this, that, you know, try to meet with the person as soon as possible.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, I wouldn't say after, you know, 10 minutes online, you try and arrange a coffee date, but I would say that if you have you go in with a list of your questions and you know exactly what you're looking for, and you have your first online encounter and you go through your questions, again, not like an interrogation, but more like a conversation where you're exploring, and you find that, well, we don't match on certain values or you know, goals or you know, whatever. Okay, then you're free to just say, sorry, you know, thanks for the conversation, but I think I'll need to move on. You can just say that. I'm not sure that there should be any emotional damage unless you are being played, like somebody is, you know,
catfishing.
They really sound like they're wonderful, and they keep wanting to connect with you online, and text and this and that, but they're not making a move to meet you in person. Something wrong there. That could be difficulty. So I would suggest, yes, you try to get them. If it's going absolutely great and you're almost going, wow, this is too good to be true, meet them in person.
Definitely.
You know.
And the ghosting can be another issue that can be very difficult online.
Issue, yes. So you have to, you know, kind of go in there with armor.
Yeah, pretty much.
Kind of an impenetrable armor like in a war, but you have to be resilient, emotionally resilient enough to accept.
For online dating, absolutely, I agree.
Yes,
so the next question is, can deflecting serious topics in a relationship ever be beneficial, or does it always lead to larger issues down the line? Deflecting serious topics in a relationship, I mean, obviously there are some topics.
Discussed this.
Yeah, we kind of covered this before. So yeah, it's best to address issues as much as you can, to deflect, not to sweep things under the rug.
Right.
But we covered this one, Lucy. Let's go on to the next one.
Okay. How effective is marriage counseling in resolving conflicts that seem hopeless? And what are the signs that it's time to seek help?
Well, I guess it's time to seek help when you guys are not able to resolve things. You're not able to talk.
Sure.
you're not able to listen to each other and find resolutions to your issues. I mean, once you just feel like you're banging your head against the wall, then it's time to get help.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And do you find that marriage counseling is effective in resolving these issues? Like, does it work for everyone, or
it depends on where the couple is at. I mean, assuming that you're a really good marriage counselor, the biggest piece is, what are the strengths of the relationship? What are the strengths of the two people here? And how intent are they really in making this marriage work? And both of them have to be very intent.
Yeah.
Because by the time things have broken down to the point where we're seeing a marriage counselor, if one party is just not into it, one of the people is not into it, no marriage counselor can wave a magic wand and make it better. So
is there a point, Lucille, where you tell them that you guys are not going to make it, you need to get a divorce? Like, would you ever say something like that?
Yeah, because there are certain conditions under which it's not going to work, and there are a number of them, and I can't remember all of the 4, but I've seen it certainly happen in marriage counseling. It's things like when you start feeling contempt for one another. It's where you become like really nasty interactions where you are openly either verbally abusive or putting the other person down, or it's even more extreme where there may be physical abuse. You are just so intent. Like, some people get so rigid about what they want in a marriage, and they do not see maybe there are different options. Maybe there are healthier ways to deal with things. Maybe you can be open to respecting the other person's autonomy and their choices. There are certain things that you look for, and that the marriage is doomed if there is that level of rigidity and contempt and total self-focus. You can only see your own issues. You can't understand your partner's point of view. That's doomed.
Yeah.
That would be doomed.
Yeah, that's quite sad.
It is. Yeah.
When considering couples counseling, how can partners create a safe space for each other to express their needs and fears without judgment? So I guess this would be up to the counselor to provide a safe space, right?
Yes. And I'm currently having this issue with a couple that I'm working with, where they have been warring for a very, very, very long time, and they really don't have the skills to communicate without wounding one another. So in order to create a safe space, you have to get them to agree that their way of dealing with conflict is just not working, and they're just going to divorce if the conflict keeps up, and that at least let's give another technique a try before they head for the divorce court. And what it requires is a lot of painstaking work in teaching them how to communicate without going to war. So there are specific techniques that I use with people where you go through exercises. You don't talk about anything really contentious or that's going to, be like a match to gasoline. You talk about, you take examples of, where are we going out for dinner tonight? Believe it or not, this can be a big issue.
Oh, really?
Yes, it can be for some couples who are so combative, and you take a theme like that, like where to go for dinner, or what are we going to have for dinner, or who's going to make dinner, who's going to clean up later, and you use a specific exercise of how to speak to the other person, how to listen, how to summarize what you think they've said, how to clarify or question if you're not sure what they mean. And you have to kind of apply these techniques over and over and over again until they become second nature. And you then can talk about anything. talk about anything quite naturally and spontaneously without going to war. But at the same time, if you're going to war, so you got the communication techniques that where you both agree that you're going to do them, and you're going to do them diligently, and you're going to try to restrain any combative instinct. You do all of the communication techniques, but you also, with each person, have to do individual therapy.
That's interesting.
Yeah, where they don't, and it may not be with a marriage counselor. They may have to find their own individual therapists. If you're so combative, and you've been in a relationship where you've been constantly combative with one another, that speaks to a whole lot of dysfunctional stuff in your youth. That speaks to coming from a very dysfunctional family system.
Wow.
And so you have to heal from all of that as an individual to fully engage in trying to create a healthy relationship with your partner. You have to heal from it and unlearn all the unhealthy ways that you were taught to communicate in your families of origin.
Yeah,
so it's a big job.
Yeah, it sounds like a big job.
It is
like a big job.
Yeah. Okay, and so number 10, amidst a plethora of choices, how do individuals navigate finding the best online therapy service that aligns with their specific emotional and mental health needs?
So I think we kind of covered this one as well.
Kind of covered that, yeah. Just to summarize, I would say you can. There are people who do blogs on things like this, where how to connect with a therapist that can really help you. So they will offer you suggestions for how to, what questions need to be asked, what you need to observe about a therapist to see the nonverbals, for example, that will tell you whether or not they seem capable and intent on helping you. And you have your verbal questions as well. And I always prefer working with people who come to me already with questions. Again, you don't want to go in there just thinking, oh, well, I need a therapist, so I'm going to behave like I think a good client should, and I'm going to get the therapist to accept me. No, I think it's really important that you assess the therapist as much as they're assessing you. And you really will then get a really good feel of whether there's a good fit between the two of you.
And referrals. I think personal referrals are so important. You probably get a lot of clients.
And I think that's, yes, and I do get a lot of word of mouth referrals, and that is excellent. That's a good way to find somebody. However, at the same time, you don't want to just rely on the referral. You want to know if you as the individual really fits with that therapist, because your friend who's referred you may have a whole different experience and a whole different set of issues than you. And so you can't just holus bolus say, hey, my friend recommended you, I'm on board,
Exactly, yeah. And you need to I think you need to have a chemistry with your therapist as well.
You need to have a chemistry, yes.
And maybe they're specializing in something that is not your issue or that is your issue. So those things are really important as well. Like if you're looking specifically for marriage counseling, then try to find someone that specializes with that, or for children. I mean, there are so many different specialties, right? So those things are very, very important to consider. So there were a lot of interesting questions about therapies and online therapies and stuff like that. So we hope we were able to clear all these things up for you guys. And that brings us to the end of this episode. Guys, thank you so much for watching or listening, whichever platform you're on. Send us your questions. We're always happy to answer them.
Yes, please like, share, comment, subscribe. Yes, we would really appreciate that. And it helps so many other people to find this podcast and get the help they need.
Absolutely. Absolutely, guys. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode, episode 31. We're going to have what are we going to be talking about next episode? Let me put my glasses on. Challenges with retirement. We're going to have some family issues as usual. wife issues, drama queens, you won't want to miss the next episode, guys. So make sure you do subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone. Please be aware that Lynn and I are here to provide insights, advice, stories that are for educational and entertainment purposes only. None of our content should be considered to be personal, medical, or mental health therapy. If you are experiencing a mental health or physical health challenge, please consult the appropriate healthcare specialist. We are here to provide the best possible content in an atmosphere of positive conversation and personal growth.